Hi, David. Thanks so much for this second order. I'm really looking forward to seeing what changes you've implemented. I think it already looks much better here on the homepage, the hero section. So let's get started. I will be using this new tool I just found, Pastel it's called, and it allows me to kind of, add comments directly to a specific element. So that might be handy if there are any other changes needed. So let's get started. Let's start here with this hero section. I think it already looks much better. Also this call to action button. Now the size is much better. I think when I first did the second follow-up video, I think it was a pretty wide button, especially down here. And I think it looks way better like this. So this already looks much more structured. I think one thing that is still missing is kind of maybe a subheadline that kind of sits in here that just goes a little bit more into detail about, who you are, what you're doing, and how people can benefit from this. So this, this H1 headline here really gets my attention now, I think. But it would be great to have a little bit more text in here. So this should be a smaller headline. So we have a clear visual hierarchy. So this is the main headline. This is the subheadline. Then I would move this kind of graphic a little bit up and even out the spacing down there. So let me just add that in. So I will say here, add subheadline like this. And I will say in between the CTA, I would fix the spacing between CTA and graphic. So I would do that. I think this background image is very nice. I think in the beginning you had this moving kind of slider background, and I think this works just much better. And again, you could do some A/B testing in the future and just see, what kind of wording works best, what sort of background works best. But I think this is a great background to start with. The overall height of this hero section, I would probably still try to reduce a little bit. I think there's really no need to have this additional space down here. So I would probably move everything up a little bit. If you add this subheadline, you won't have that much space, but you can move everything up a little bit and maybe end this hero section around here, let's say. So this just helps us to, people would already kind of see the next headline, and it might encourage them to scroll down as well. So I will just select the whole hero section here and say, reduce overall hero height by, say, it's around 40 to 50 pixels, I would imagine. So I think that would be great. Apart from that, I think this hero section looks much better now. Let's have a look here at the menu. We have these changes here. So we have the photos and videos combined in the media section. I think that is good. We have reviews, songs, events, compare, FAQ, blog, and contact. So here, for example, one thing I noticed is if I hover over these menu items here that have a drop down, my cursor kind of changes like this, and it doesn't look very nice. So this is just a very small detail, but make sure the cursor, I would say unhover, and the cursor should either just stay as an arrow, or you could also have a pointer, but I think I would just say it like this. So that's an easy fix. You can just do that with some CSS. And apart from that, I think that looks good. Again, the order of these menu items, I'm not entirely sure if it's correct now, because I would imagine these events, they would be very important. So maybe I would actually move them very far over. Again, you should, really order these menu items by importance from left to right. Here it's good. We have contact and blog and FAQ over here. The compare page, is over there, but maybe these items could probably be reordered. I would imagine the events and the about would be the most important pages. So these should be the first pages here, and then everything else you could push over a little bit, I guess. So I will just add that in. I will just say, I will say that here, order menu items by importance from left to right, like that. And I think this would be even better. I think, I'm not sure, maybe you didn't do that, but it almost seems like you increased the spacing above your logo here. If that's the case, that looks good. Maybe I'm just imagining things here. So, but I think it looks pretty good now. Yeah, and we will go over these pages in a second. We still have, I think, the same top bar here, and I think that looks good as well. So let's scroll down. We have here this headline. I think that looks good. This call to action now looks way better, I think, with this additional headline. And I think this call to action button also looks very good. With the color, I think it definitely looks better than in the follow-up video, kind of. I think it definitely looks nicer than this very strong blue. And again, I would just try maybe, you know, different landing pages with different colors for the buttons, just see what works. One thing here is I would increase the spacing. So basically the padding, increase top padding for this section by, say, 25 pixels. I think that should be enough. So just push it down a little bit, this headline. I think it sits just a little bit too close to the edge here of this hero section. Apart from that, I think this looks very nice. All of that looks very appealing. Click to take the first step. So I see you kind of switch up these different CTAs, and I think that's a good idea, you know. And you could also track, you know, which CTA gets clicked the most, and then, you know, you could basically change the wording on all these CTAs. And there are different plugins you could use, different tools. You could also just work, for example, with a bit.ly link shortener, for example, and you could just count how many people click this call to action button, how many people click that, and then you could work a little bit like this. Here, Chicago's most awarded band. So that is great. In general, I think, though, now these two sections don't really seem to be the same section, if that makes sense, because I have a white background here, black background here. So I don't necessarily connect these two in my mind, if that makes sense. So maybe you need to make this whole section, so starting here to going beneath these actual icons or badges or awards or logos, and I'm not sure. Let me just check here if these actually sit on a transparent background or not. I'm assuming they don't, so let me just have a look here. No, so I think they just sit on a white background. So what I would suggest here is that you make this whole section maybe kind of a light gray. So I still can see kind of, this is where a new section starts. So it's different from the white we have up here. But so it just melts these sections a little bit more together, these two, which are actually one section. I think that would be great. Alternatively, you could just put this kind of sub-headline, and I would make that even smaller. So at the moment, it seems to be the same font size as this headline. So I would keep this headline on top, the same size, and you could make this smaller, so, and move this actually into the white area. So I only basically have this piece of text sitting inside of the black background. That is an alternative here. So I would just say, for this one, I will say move into section below decrease font size like this. And I think that is maybe even the better fix here, and the easier fix, because otherwise you will end up with kind of these logos sitting on a white background, but if you change the background color for this section, it might not look great. So yeah, that is the only thing. Maybe just move this down and scale down the font size here. We love our couples, they love us back. Read more reviews. This links to the testimonials page. That is fine. I think this works now much better on a white background. I'm not sure if these star ratings actually, do they sit inside of here? They don't really. Yeah, let me just have a look. Yeah, to be honest, I think the star ratings would actually look better if they would sit on top of this headline. So they would sit above the headline. Then we would have we love our couples, they love us back. We have the call to action, and then below we have this testimonial slider. But I think it works much better already like this. So I will just click on the star rating. I will say move above headline, and just make sure the spacing kind of feels right for all of these different sections. Right, and we will scroll down here. This section now looks way better, I think. It's just much more compact and easier to take in this information. One thing though, I would just increase the top padding again, and again maybe by 25 pixels. Not a lot, but just to push down this headline a little bit, to give it a bit more space, because it looks a little bit squished. We're always trying to give these sections, you know, the kind of air they need to breathe. So down here we have another call to action. I think that looks good. I think here you don't necessarily need any additional text. These sections look way better, I think. They look much more compact, and they just look kind of complete in a way. We don't have any spacing in between, so I think that is much better. Here I would just make sure that if I hover over these texts, that they don't completely disappear. They should just dim down a little bit. So I will just say on hover, dim text, or reduce opacity. That is really what you're trying to do here, without, you know, having the text disappear completely. And I think then these sections look great. And then we have kind of a last CTA section here, and this kind of looks a little bit unfinished, a little bit messed up. So you can just, you know, finish this call to action section. I think the location is good to have one final CTA. But I would recommend, you know, with the CTA text you had up here, something like this, or even the same text, I would definitely put here as well. So you have one final CTA here, and also make sure, so all of this, of course, should be white. You know, we don't want these gray areas. And I would also give this a bit more spacing. So I will just say remove gray area, and I will say down here you need some bottom padding. So I will say increase bottom padding, and I would say you want around 35 pixels, and you can just see if that looks kind of nice and balanced. Right, and then we have the footer here. We have the phone number, email address, and physical address, all of these. I think that looks pretty good, and this will link, I guess, to Google Maps. That is fine. And yeah, apart from that, I think your homepage looks much better already. I think it looks a lot more balanced and not as overwhelming, and I think it performs much better as well. I'm not sure if it was this kind of slider up here that was so kind of heavy on the performance, but it feels much lighter already. So yeah, let's head over to the, I will actually go to the contact us page first, because you know that is really one of your most important pages here. So oh, and this sends me actually somewhere else. So this sends me to the gallery. And let me go back one more time. So it says click to get started. And this then sends me to the dancing gallery. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure if that is the best way to do it, because now I have to click one more time to get to the contact us. Maybe you just want to link directly to this, landing page, whatever it is, where people can actually then send an inquiry. Or alternatively, I guess the weddings page would be the other page that might be very interesting for people. Here the gallery, I guess it's kind of nice to see some impressions of previous events, but I think it would be more relevant to actually send people either to the weddings page or directly to the contact page. Probably it would be better to send them to the weddings page first, but I still want to look at the price quote page here, because a lot of people will probably end up on this page. Right, and it says contact us. We look forward to speaking with you. Contact us, and then I have these contact details. So, and then we have the form here on the left, and we have read more reviews. I think I would remove that CTA here, because you don't really want to, send people away from this page. So only on this page I would probably remove it. So I would say remove CTA, because we really want to focus now on getting a message from people and not lead them away to some other page. Then we have this section here. Of course, the same thing would apply for these stars as well. So I would probably move them above this headline. But all of this needs a little bit more space to breathe. So here I would just say add spacing, and maybe you want to add around, at least 35 pixels, I think would be great. And so you would push down this whole section. And down here you want, again, to increase bottom padding. And of course, to be honest, it doesn't really make any sense to have this here, because I'm already on the contact page. So actually ignore this and just remove this whole section. So remove section. We want to keep it nice and simple here. We don't need any unnecessary sections on this very important page. So I will just delete this node here. And we just have basically the reviews and the form here, and this information here on the right. I would also remove this graphic, because it looks kind of squished. It's something happened to it anyways, or it's kind of a fisheye lens or something, but for some reason it doesn't look great. So I would remove this, and I would also really just focus on what's important here, and that is that the user really fills out this form here on the right. On the left we have this video here. I think is good. Just make sure to add some bottom padding to this section, so it pushes down the video a little bit. 25 pixels should be enough. And here on top you should also push this down so it doesn't sit so close to the breadcrumbs here. So you would also say add top padding, and you would want to push that down quite a bit, so also 35 pixels. One thing here, again, this form, I think I mentioned that before, but I wouldn't make it necessarily black. I would try to go with kind of more like a friendlier color. So you could try maybe a different type of gray, for example. So I just changed the color here real quick to actually a gold. I just played around with a few things. And I think this already looks a little bit more friendly, you know, a little bit more encouraging and maybe also trustworthy. So, you know, you don't have to make it gold. Just maybe play around with a few colors. So I will just say change background color, and you can maybe, you know, see what works for you. But I think some colors would definitely work better than the black. So, and I also made the button here black instead, and I think this also works better already. So maybe think about that. Again, this page I think is very important. It's very important to get that one right. So let's head over here to the About Us page and see what we can find there. So I think this looks great. You're still linking to the compare page. That is fine. Again, I'm not sure if that is really something a lot of people do, or if it's necessary, or if you want to use that space, maybe, you know, just to drive people to your main kind of landing page, like the contact page or something like this. But if you think that's important, and you know obviously much more about this, you know, niche than I do, so then keep doing that. Here I would increase the top spacing, increase top padding by 25 again, so just push that down a little bit. And now all of these are small details, you know, but I think in summary they can make a big difference. Here also I would increase the spacing, or let me just look at this. Or you could actually, I think what would actually be better, because that looks actually nice to have this in combination. I just think this section now looks a little bit out of place, or it's kind of, you know, it's not really sitting anywhere. So what I would do is push that whole section down a little bit, add spacing, say 30 pixels, like that. And what you could do is also change the background color for this whole section basically, and you could make it a light gray, for example. Change background color to light gray maybe, just so we have a bit more structure here. I think all of this looks good. Also this box looks very nice here. I have this CTA once more. Here I do have enough spacing, and I think that looks great. Again here, you could probably increase some of the resolution here we have for these band member photos, but I think you did probably. I think last time I saw one that was really low resolution, so I think that looks fine. It's also nice with this kind of flip effect. I think that's cool. And down here again, if you have this CTA section, I would just always add a certain text there and make sure the spacing is right. So I won't mention that anymore, but wherever you have that at the bottom of a page, just make sure it looks nice and appealing and has also some copy to accompany it. So let's have a look here at the photos section. I don't think you change too much here. No, so we added this additional, I think, CTA, and I think this looks way better than before. This looks very nice. Musicians. And will that work? And I actually get to a dedicated page. So I probably mentioned that last time, but it's maybe a little bit unusual to send people actually to that page. I would probably just imagine this to, you know, update the content here dynamically, but you know, you can do it like this, but it would just take away this loading time for all these images to appear, or for this new page to load. But I think that's fine. And you have this additional copy up here. I guess if I click on gifts, there will also be I guess a new text for only the gifts section. Yeah, so that's good. I think for SEO purposes that is a good idea. And I think it looks good now with this CTA. So no complaints there. Let's have a look here at the videos page. And I think now it also looks way better here with this CTA. I think it looks very balanced now. I have a clear visual hierarchy from top to bottom. The text kind of gets smaller, and I think it just looks nice and balanced. I have these videos here, and I think that looks good. I think I wouldn't change anything here now. Let's have a look here at the reviews page. And it's, I think, really cool that you always kind of change the copy for this CTA. And I think it works really well. Also, the font size here for this call to action looks great. I would just maybe slightly increase the bottom padding for this section, or I will just, yeah, it's actually increase bottom padding again, maybe 25, I would say. So it just pushes down these reviews a tiny amount, and then I have all of these testimonials. So that looks great. Here, I really think you need to increase the image resolution. I would just say increase resolution because it looks a little bit pixelated, and you know, these could be very nice photos and they look kind of low quality at the moment. So here this looks nice. However, here you have a much bigger headline. I would really try and stay consistent here with the font size. So I will just say that. I will just put it in here and I will say stay consistent, almost consistent with font size like this. I think that is important. All of these, I think, link to the contact us. Here, the star rating, I think it doesn't look great on the black background. I think I mentioned that already. So I would just say change background color. Obviously, both of these sections, so the header here and these as well. I would just make these light gray, for example. I think they would look way better. You would add some additional spacing in here. You would say, or you could push it down. You could say increase bottom padding. Again, definitely 25 pixels at least. So I will post that here. And we will scroll down here. That looks nice. Here again, same thing with the image resolution. I won't add this comment now, but that just applies for all of these images. Make sure they have sufficient resolution. Here you definitely need to increase the spacing. So again, increase bottom padding, 25 pixels. And even the top padding here could be increased, I guess, yeah. Right, and then we will scroll down here, and once again, you need to add some bottom padding there. But I think overall this page looks pretty good. Just a small couple of changes there. Let's have a look here at the songs page. And I think here you also need to increase the bottom padding. I won't say that anymore. That just applies for all of these CTA sections, that they have enough space to breathe, and especially beneath the button, it seems to often sit very close to the next edge. And don't go overboard with it, just a few pixels would do. Remove this section. I would just say remove white space. And we will scroll back up. We will have a look here at the weddings events page here. Here I think you could slightly increase the font size. At the moment it's a little bit hard to read, not much, just a little bit bigger. I think apart from that it looks pretty good. That looks very nice. Yeah, that is a great page now, and I think just one thing here, the CTA, I would just try to stay consistent with how that looks across the whole site. So you should always use kind of the same font size, the same spacing, and you know, it's probably a good idea to play with different copy for these sections, but at least kind of visually they should kind of look the same. But I think that page just looked very good. Here, same thing, you could increase the bottom padding here slightly, 25 pixels, like that. So this small parties page, and I think all of that looks pretty good. I think this kind of stock photo down here is kind of unnecessary. I would probably just remove that, because you know, you have all of this original content. You don't really need kind of stock images. It's kind of unnecessary. Here you could just slightly push up this headline. So I would just say push up by 10 pixels, not a lot, just a tiny amount, but I think it would just look better. Right, and then we will head over here to the corporate events page. Okay, and something isn't right here, so this definitely needs to move down. I'm not sure really what's going on here, but this obviously needs to move down. So you really, what you need to do is increase top padding by, I would say, yeah, around 60 pixels. So we could look if that is about right. So I would just use my ruler tool here and see that would be around 60, so at least. So maybe you could do 80. You would just have to work with that. On the other events pages, I think it looks pretty balanced. This looks good. Here I would also push this section down, push down by say 40 pixels, and then decrease the spacing in between the headline and this down here. So I will just say decrease bottom padding by maybe 30 pixels would be good. And so this would just move these sections a little bit closer, so we clearly know which headline belongs to which section and so on. I think all of this looks good. This kind of section doesn't look great, to be honest. It looks a little bit outdated with this kind of drop shadow and everything. I would rather, you know, put these logos in sort of a slider, or kind of what we saw on the homepage with the awards, for example. I just think this graphic looks a little bit outdated. This could be improved. So I would just say switch to logo carousel, I will say. So I've added that comment in, and then apart from that, I think it looks pretty good, this page. So let's head over to compare. Let's scroll down here. I think you need to increase the spacing above this. This is like a little bit silly to always say that, but it will just look way better in the end, I think. Increase top padding by 35 pixels, around that. So you just push down this whole section a little bit. Yeah, so because we have so much white space here on the right, I think it would just look better if we also had a little bit of spacing on the bottom. Here, I'm not sure if you changed anything here, to be honest. I can't really remember, but I think it looks pretty good like this, with this black background. I think it looks nice. Yeah, that is good. Again, just stay consistent with your CTAs there. But I think it is a good page here, really. I believe that this layout is not supposed to look like this, to have this, this curve should probably overlay over this background usually. So basically, this background and this background kind of need to be the same for this to actually work. So maybe you just change this background's color, so this white to this kind of cream color, and then it will already look much better. And then you will also decrease the spacing here, so this this edge just moves further up to around here maybe, and then we won't see this problem with this layout at the moment. Let's have a look here at the FAQ page. And I think that looks good. Here we still have the old CTA, and yeah, we can see, or at least I can see, I think it feels just much better to have this one CTA here. I think it is just way clearer and more focused, really. Here, for some reason, we do have a different footer section. Maybe that was the old section. I'm not entirely sure why we have here this additional footer section, so not completely sure what's going on here. So maybe remove that, and let's have a look here at the blog page, and that will be the last page we will look at here on the desktop version. And we have some blog posts here. And again, I'm not sure if we talked about this the first time, but blogs are definitely a great way to drive organic traffic to your site. Let's have a look here. And it's also usually a great place to kind of build your email funnel. So, and that is kind of a good amount of text here. For SEO purposes, that looks great, except for some of these images don't really seem to load. Not really sure what's going on here. What I will do here is real quick go to your site in a normal browser window, because sometimes, this tracking tool that I'm using might interact with certain elements on your page. So, and they might not always work correctly. So I just want to double check if these images are broken. They seem to be broken, so I will just add something here, image broken, and you can double check that maybe. But what I wanted to say is usually the blog is a great way to build your email funnel, and you could do email marketing and so on, and that can be very powerful in itself. What I usually do is I add here my funnel in there. It's kind of a banner or a graphic, and I kind of promote my freebie like kind of a paid product. So I would just say, download this guide, to find out, how to turn your next event in an, unforgettable moment, your checklist, what you need to make your wedding or your next event, or, it could be a birthday party, stand out and make it unforgettable for your guests or something like this. And it could be, it should contain helpful information. I saw you also had like a logo there where it says, you do some consultant work as well. So, you know, you could for sure put together like a 3-page PDF document with some kind of, you know, a checklist or a guide, what makes a party great or something like this, you know, and people could download it. People who come to your site through Google, they might find this article. Here, for example, this article itself, I didn't actually read the headline. This in itself could be sort of an ebook or free giveaway, and people who read that would certainly be interested in some sort of ebook or checklist about a related topic, kind of, and then they would just leave their email address, their name. This would feed into your email list. They would get the freebie, a link to download, and this would be an automated process, and you could build your email list like this. So I would definitely look at something like this, because email marketing is still king. So, right, and I think we pretty much looked at all the different pages here. I will just now switch to the mobile version, and we will head back to the home page, have a brief look here. Again, this is an emulated version here in my browser, but it usually gets pretty close to the actual experience on a real mobile device. Here we see a couple of issues already. We need to increase the font size. I will actually say on mobile, and I will say increase font size. So I'll leave that comment here. Here you need to decrease the width of this button, and I will also say on mobile like this. So it shouldn't be full width. Here I think I already add some spacing, so that is fine. All of this resized correctly. Here you need to you need to make the mobile bar up here, you need to increase the height, because otherwise your logo won't fit, and we can't make the logo smaller because I can already barely read it. So I will say increase, again on mobile, increase header height. I will just say like this. That looks good. I would recommend to increase the font size like this. I will add that in, and right, let's go over this. So all of this looks good. Here the CTA looks a little bit better because it's not full width. Even this one, I think you should decrease the width just a tiny bit, maybe 5 pixels left and right. So 10 pixels overall, you would reduce the width. All of this looks pretty good. Did I add a comment there? Maybe I didn't, but I would also increase the top padding there slightly. I think all of that looks good. No complaints here. All of this resizes correctly. Here you need to kind of increase the font size like this, just a little bit. Yeah, and we kind of have these separators here on the mobile version, and I would probably remove them as well. I think it would just look a bit more consistent. So I will just go in here and I will say remove section spacing in between sections, and like this, and that should be good to go then. Right, all of the rest looks good. I will now go over the media page real quick. I think this looks very good. Again, I would also reduce here the width. I won't mention that anymore, just a tiny amount. I think for these items you need to reduce the line height so they just move together a little bit closer, depending on if, either it's the line height or at least, the spacing in between items. So I would just say reduce spacing like this. So they just move a little bit closer together, I think. Apart from that, I think it looks pretty good. And let me just have a look here. What happens if I click on these? They will actually open in a pop-up like this. So that's great. I will actually head over now and have a look at this page here. You will need to increase the margin. So there needs to be a tiny amount, I think, of a white border around it, so I actually see a little bit of the background left and right. So I will just click this, and I will still on mobile increase margin very slightly. So you could just say by 10 pixels maybe overall, and this should be enough. Right, and then I think the rest of this info looks good, again, apart from everything we covered before, but I think it looks fine. Let's have a look here at the videos page. Same thing here, you would need to push these a little bit closer together, but I think apart from that, it looks fine here. You would like to increase the font size as well. Let's have a look here at the About Us page. Here, for some reason, I'm not sure, the image kind of looks squished. It looks like kind of pushed together from the left and right. I'm not sure if that is actually the case and if that actually is the same on desktop, but I think it might be an artifact from the mobile resizing. Apart from that, this is a good font size for the mobile, so that looks good. I think that looks good. No complaints here. All of this resizes correctly. Yeah, no complaints here. Let's head over to the reviews page. I think that looks great. Yeah, all of this resized correctly. Only a couple of spacing issues there. Let's have a look at one of these pages. Here again, I think you could increase the spacing on top. So just push down this text a little bit. And apart from that, I think it looks very good. And these kind of alternating sections also look great here. So that looks very nice and balanced, I think. So we'll have a look here at the small parties page. Here I would also push down the text, I guess, a little bit, so give it a bit more space to the top and bottom. I think that would be important, just a little bit. Here you would want to decrease the spacing. I'm not sure what's going on here. If something is missing, I'll just say on mobile, decrease spacing in between these items. So that would be great. Yeah. And apart from that, let's have a look at the third event type page. And I'm just wondering, wasn't the logo on the home page kind of cut off around here? So maybe there is a kind of different type of header in effect here. So I will have a look at that here. Definitely fix the spacing here on mobile. We end up with way too much white space. So I will say decrease white space like that. I think that would be important here. Same thing. So this just applies for all of these sections and below this call to action button. Just, it should have enough spacing, but not overdo it. This as well kind of looks squished. This image, I will say on mobile, fix image. That would be important. Here you need to increase top and bottom padding by around 15 pixels, I would say, each. So you would have 30 pixels overall added to this section here. And yeah, apart from that, I think it looks fine. So let's head over. And one more thing I would also add, I would say on mobile, add phone icon here. So it's just clear this is the phone number, and I think that would be good. So we will head over to the songs page. And I think that looks good, apart from the things we covered before, but I think resizing wise, that looks fine. We will have a look here at the compare page. Here the image actually looks good, so you can see the difference. This is a square image and it looks nice, and the other one I think was kind of stretched towards the bottom and it didn't look great. Yeah, all of this resizes correctly. No issues here. That looks fine. FAQ. That looks great. And we will finally look at the blog here. All of that resizes correctly. And yeah, this looks good as well. So let me just go back to the home page and have a quick look here at the logo. So we can see it here. For some reason, there seems to be a different logo size in effect than, for example, on the events page here. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Just stay consistent there with the logo size throughout your site, and especially, of course, on the home page. We want this to look great. So yeah, let's head back here to the desktop view. I think we covered pretty much all of the website and all the changes you've implemented. I think it already looks much more consistent, much more balanced, and just more appealing and professional overall. So good job there. And yeah, I'll be happy to do another review maybe once you implemented these other changes. But I think you're pretty much there already. It's just a couple of changes, but I think just from a appearance and visual standpoint, it would make a lot of sense to implement these changes. A lot of the spacings are a little bit off, and once you fix that, it will already look a little bit more professional again. And as I said, I think the contact page is really one of the key pages, and it really needs to look very appealing. And yeah, we will kind of skip the SEO part, I think, in the speed test, because I'm sure nothing really changed too much there yet, because we didn't really change the copy too much. We can do that maybe some other time as well and look at that once again. So yeah, thanks again so much for your second order. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will send you this link to this pastel workspace, and you can see all these comments. All of them are basically mapped here to the side, so you can see all the different comments mapped to these elements, and you can work on them and also locate them maybe a little bit easier. So you can just say you can just click on one of these, and then it will kind of jump to the corresponding section. It will tell you, okay, here this is add a subheadline. So yeah, thanks again so much for ordering. Have a great weekend, and yeah, talk soon. Bye.